I got to know Guy Simpson, who's the music supervisor of Love Never Dies, through Phantom. And we knew that Love Never Dies was happening actually while I was doing Phantom. So he had sort of said, why don't you have a look at, a few bits and pieces. And as soon as I heard the score, I was like, yeah, absolutely, tick. So the audition process itself, though, was actually really quick. I think one of the quickest audition processes that I've done. I think that was because the whole creative team was there from the beginning and they really knew what they wanted, but it was over less than a month, I think, and then it kind of culminated in a day of workshopping the material with the whole creative team and all the producers in the room, and then that was all filmed and sent off to Andrew, and then a few weeks later I found out that I got the part. I cried, I think. It was very early in the morning. I remember my agent called me up, and I think I'd been up since 6 a.m. or something because I knew it was the day I was going to find out, and I'd been for a big long walk, and I think I was just so exhausted and so excited as well. Yeah, it was really interesting coming here because I've never performed a show in Sydney before. I didn't really know what to expect. The major difference, I think, is the Capitol is so much more intimate. It seats the same number of people or thereabouts, but it's so much more intimate. So we have started, to hear people's reactions and a lot more than we did in the Regent. The Regent's really big, a really long house to play to. So so it's been, and people are loving it in Sydney. They're like jumping up and giving standing ovations and stuff. It's great. I think Sydney's into it. It's a bit bold and brash, and and looks very pretty, which is very Sydney, I think. I didn't really know that this was what I wanted to do when I was younger. But I do remember singing "Think of Me" into my tape recorder when I was about 7, and probably thought, I hope but I don't know, it kind of went off my radar for a while when I was at school and starting college. But then when the opportunity came up to audition for Phantom, it just felt like a really perfect fit to me again. It's amazing, like, because my background is in classical music and in opera, to get to meet a living composer of the work that you're doing is something that just really rarely happens. And Andrew's such a big figurehead in our industry anyway. But what surprised me is that he's all about the work. Like, even now, he's all about the work and the integrity of the work. So that was pretty cool to to have his input. When we were filming the DVD, he came up to me before we shot the aria, and he kind of told me exactly what he wanted it to convey, and that was pretty cool. Yeah, it was interesting because Andrew was here while we were previewing in Melbourne. He was here for whatever it was, nearly 2 weeks, I think, and he was writing new bits of music, and he wasn't very hands-on in the kind of the delivery of how we were delivering the show. But when he came out again for, while we were filming the DVD, he did have some specific ideas that he wanted inserted, musical ideas. I'm talking about. I really love the character. Like, she means a lot to me, and to have the opportunity to develop her story is obviously incredible, and also really unusual. I kind of didn't really know how to do it when after I was cast. I kind of thought, how do you make that connect into Love Never Dies Christine from Phantom Christine? So yeah, I think I love her because she's a very innocent character in a lot of ways, a very pure character, but she also has this really deep desire and passion inside of her. So that's a really interesting dichotomy to play, and I think that's something that I connect with as well. And on a hard day when everything's just a bit too much and you're tired and you've had a million publicity engagements or whatever, and you're trying to gear yourself up from the show, I really tried to key into the music because that means a lot to me. That's my favourite medium of storytelling, through music. So almost the whole of our show is underscored, so it's very, very easy to just key into that and be transported by that into the world of Christine. a huge amount. We were rehearsing for a really short period, actually in the room rehearsing for I think 4 weeks up here in Sydney, and then we transferred to the region and we teched for 3 weeks. So it was a really fast rehearsal period. So, and we were working really long days, and so the onus was really on us all to offer things and bring things to the table. And that, looking back on it, people would come into the room every day with something new, and someone would be like, yeah, that's great, do that, or so yeah, that was amazing. And Simon's real strength as a director is aesthetic, I think, in how the piece looks and how the spectacle of it, and how you can make people feel a certain way by the way that things choreograph in together, people, bits of set, that sort of movement. That's his real strength. So he was very focused on that.
Yep.
And obviously we're dealing with a really, really complicated set as well. So that was sort of his main focus, I think, in the rehearsal room. So it was a real team effort to bring everything into play. Musicians are always a bit dangerous, I think. I don't know. I like smarts. Yeah, I like someone who reads a lot, because I do too. I don't know. I think you just look for someone who you see yourself reflected in, I suppose. Who you have similar interests and similar goals and that sort of thing. So. Oh, that's a really good question.
The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the musical.
Oh my! I don't think I would ever be seen for that, even if I wanted to be. Gosh, I really love Margaret Atwood. So I think if anyone made a musical of Alias Grace, the Grace Marks character in that is really interesting. Also, another one of my favourite authors is Geraldine Brooks. So any of her female heroines, probably Year of Wonders was my favourite book of hers. It's about a plague village in England, and there's a very strong, she writes very strong female protagonists. So either of those would be great if anyone's thinking of writing a musical.
See what we can do.
It's surreal. In a way, but then also it's sort of not, because I remember doing that photo shoot where we shot the pictures that they were going to use to show outside the theatre and put on the tram and all that sort of thing. But it is, when it takes you by surprise, it's fairly overwhelming. I try and tune all of that out, because that has very little to do with the work that we do on stage every day. I think if you get too involved in that, then that dilutes your purpose in performing every day. Yeah, that's the challenge, I think. Nobody really tells you about the intense tiredness that comes when you're performing 8 shows a week and a role that's sort of as big a volume as this. There's a lot to be said for an audience out there picking you up and taking you along, and the responsibility that you have to them, and there's just something that takes over often when you get out there. And a few bits, and there's a few things on the horizon, which is nice not to have to think about, but I'm going to need a little bit of holiday first, I think, after this.